Rescue the souls of men. Oh, rescue the souls of men. Counselor, comforter, keeper, Spirit we long to embrace. You offer hope when our hearts have hopelessly lost our way. Oh, we've hopelessly lost our way. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. Almighty, infinite Father, faithfully loving, oh Lord, here in our weakness you find us, falling before your throne. Oh, we're falling before your throne. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. You give the healing and grace our hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for. You are the one that we praise. You are the one that we praise. You are the one we adore. Hearts always hunger for. Oh, our hearts always hunger for.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Bible People's Court. In this court, various Bible characters are put on trial for different charges. Today, 4 Bible parents will be put on trial for cases of bad parenting. Here is the prosecutor. Mr. Prosecutor, I have a question for you. What is your plan for today's trial?
Everybody's going to jail.
Well, this should be interesting. Please stay tuned. I see the judge is now entering the court. Please rise and turn your eyes to him.
Please be seated. The court is now in session. Good day to all present. Today we will be hearing cases relating to parents from the Bible. We want to have all proceedings conducted with diplomacy, observing all protocols and having respect to everyone involved. Each defendant will be called upon to answer charges associated with their parenting, and they are going to be examined by a prosecutor. After his closing argument, the jury will engage in discussions to reach a verdict. After the verdict is read, the defendants will then be allowed to submit closing arguments. Now, this is a special court, so defendants are not required to have legal representation. With that being said, let us begin with our first defendant, Mr. Eli. Mr. Eli, please step forward. Please be seated. I ask that you put your right hand up as you take your seat. Mr. Eli, please behave in my court. Thank you. Now, Mr. Eli, are you planning to tell any lies in my court today?
Not today.
Thank you. Put your hand down.
Okay.
Mr. Prosecutor, you may now begin.
Good day, Mr. Eli.
Hello.
Mr. Eli, what is your occupation?
I'm a high priest.
Okay, could you say it louder for the jury? The jury would like to hear.
I'm a high priest.
You're a high priest. Okay. And what church are you the high priest for? What is the church?
It's not a church. It's a temple.
It's a temple, which is
Shiloh in Shiloh.
it's a
You know where
different
Shiloh
right.
is?
Okay. That's not necessary to know.
Okay.
Would you say that the persons in your sorry, how long have you been, the priest for Shiloh Temple, whatever it is? How long have you been the priest for?
Over 40 years.
Over 40 years. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy has been a priest for over 40 years.
My name is Eli, not this guy.
Sorry, Mr. Eli.
High priest Eli to you.
Did your parents call you that because you never told the truth? Anyway, so he has been a priest for 40 years. Tell me something, Mr. Eli. Would you say that your members, they think highly of you?
Well, I'm a high priest. I hope so.
Right. And you don't recall any instances or serious incidents concerning your sons?
You mean Hophni and Phineas, those guys, those boys?
Yes, those boys.
No, those are good boys.
Good boys, you say?
Yes.
Good boys.
I can't remember anything, really.
Your Honor, I would like to admit into evidence this item.
As a footprint?
No, I want you to take a closer look at it. I'm going to take it out of the bag. And Mr. Eli, I want you to identify what this is.
What it is or it's supposed to be?
Either way, Mr. Eli.
But it looks like a piece of lamb, but I'm vegetarian.
Piece of lamb, but it looks roasted and not boiled, not so?
Yes.
Does this ring any bell about any incident that you would have had with your sons concerning lamb?
Well, it was just this one time, the boys, their mother didn't cook. And they were, at the temple all day with the people and, accepting the offerings, etc. They were hungry. So, they just took, you can't give them the bad parts.
So you're blaming Mrs. Eli?
Sorry?
You're blaming Mrs. Eli for this? Because she didn't cook?
Well, they were hungry. So they, and you can't give them the old part. So they asked for the best part, and they had a meal.
Okay, all right. And this happened on how much occasions, you said?
I never counted. I think it was only once.
Only once?
I think.
Yet still, our court documents show at least 4 dozen complaints from your members.
They're lying on my children.
I would like the jury to take note that this complaint happened more than once. Mr. Eli, what about immoral behavior at your temple? Are you aware of instances where your sons would have been involved in immoral behavior at the temple? Do you understand what immoral means?
No, tell me.
To put it plainly, are you aware of a situation or situations where your sons, Hophni and Phineas, were having sexual relations with women in the temple?
Can the jury please be quiet? Mr. Prosecutor, please continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you answer the question, Mr. Eli?
Can you repeat the question, sir? And say it slowly.
Are you aware, Mr. Eli, Priest Eli, High Priest Eli, Honorable High Priest Eli?
Thank you.
Are you aware of any incidences where your sons were engaging in sexual acts with women in the temple, women who were not their wives?
Well, they were accused. I never saw them myself, but they were accused.
So you're saying it didn't happen?
And there's no evidence.
There's no evidence. It didn't happen.
I don't know. I wasn't there.
So did you bother to investigate? What did you do when you heard of those serious allegations?
Well, I just told them that if it was true, that they should not do it again.
Oh,
I told them that God was very displeased that with this behavior, and if they were actually doing it, that, they should really not do it again.
so you just spoke with them. You didn't
I spoke with
discipline them.
But they're big men. How do I discipline them?
Oh, so you allowed this to happen
I didn't allow it.
over and over, and all you did was you spoke with them.
Yes. As much as I could do.
And when these women would come to you and complain, how did you explain that to them?
Explain to who? My sons or the women?
How do you explain to the women that these men were able to do these acts over and over and you did nothing about it?
Well, Mr. Prosecutor, sir, the women were not forced.
You were not forced. I would like to let the jury know that this defendant clearly neglected to correct his son in the right way, even though he was fully aware of all their grievous acts with women in the church and stealing roasted lamb from the members without their consent.
Oh, you just eat lamb too?
Mr.
Your Honor,
Eli, Mr. Eli.
Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Eli, please answer this question as I close. Were you or were you not aware of all the wrong things that your sons did in the temple?
Well, to tell the truth, I heard about it from a few persons, but I didn't want to believe that my boys, who I trained and who I spent time with, I thought I did my best, but I didn't believe that it was. I didn't believe it.
Order any court. Order any court.
Let's enter evidence the crocodile tears of this defendant. Your Honor, that's my last question. I'm ready for my closing argument.
We were arguing?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this man,
High Priest Eli.
this man is clearly guilty of neglect, permissiveness, and turning a blind eye to his son's out of control behavior. He is guilty as charged of poor parenting. I would ask you, the jury, to find this man guilty and so he could understand the consequences of his actions and his inactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. The jury, you have heard the witness, you have heard the prosecutor. Please make your verdict. You have 1 minute.
I just want to say that the prosecutor, you're guilty of wearing a yellow
Mr.
tie with a white
Eli.
shirt.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the defendant must stay in the quarters before when the verdict is read.
Mr. Eli,
Could you
please come
get
back
back
and
to
have your seat.
To your seat, sir. Point of order. High Priest, my foot.
The jury, you can now make your verdict. You have 1 minute.
Let's go by, yes, bye.
The yellow-headed jawfish.
This fish is found mostly in the Caribbean and is usually spotted poking their heads out of their burrow. They usually don't venture far from home. But the amazing thing is that when the eggs are laid, the father crams them in his mouth and moves them around to keep them hydrated and clean. It is his job to protect them all, which means he does not eat till after they are all hatched.
That's a really interesting approach to fasting.
Thank you for that interesting video on animal parenting. We have heard the case of Mr. High Priest Eli, and we saw the chaos in the court. So I wonder what the jury's verdict is. Is it guilty or is it innocent?
Jury members agree that Mr. Eli is guilty.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Mr. Eli, do you have any closing remarks?
Church board coming up.
Mr. Eli, please take your seat until you are dismissed.
It's Judge Roughboy. No closing remarks, Mr. Barber, Honor, sir.
Mr. Who?
Mr. Judge.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Eli, you have been found guilty by the court on accounts of bad parenting. You are now dismissed. Now we shall have our next defendant, Mr. Abraham. Please step forward. Mr. Abraham, can you please put up your right hand? Mr. Abraham, can you please put up your right hand? Thank you. Do you plan to tell any lies in my court? Mr. Abraham, when I ask a question, I expect to be answered.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Prosecutor.
Good day, Mr. Abraham.
Good afternoon.
Is that your real name?
Yes, it is.
Really? I'm looking at your birth certificate and it says Abram. Are you lying to the court, Mr. Abraham?
I just said I will not lie. Can I see the birth certificate?
No, sir. This is not about your birth certificate. I will ask you this, though. I'm looking through the court documents again. I'm seeing that you are known as the father of many nations. Is that true?
Amen.
Yes, it is?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Many nations. Interesting. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as a father? Don't say 8.
10 being the lowest or the highest?
10 is the highest.
9. 9.
Okay, reached up at 9, okay. So let me ask you then. Would you neglect your children by casting them away or abandoning them?
I'll never do that.
You'll never do that?
Never.
Interesting. Mr. Abraham, what can you say about your firstborn Ishmael?
What would you like to know about him?
Where is he right now?
He's with his
And
mom.
his mother?
They are together.
They are together?
Yes.
Is he living with you?
At this present moment?
Yes, at this present moment, yes.
What day is it?
Your Honor, this witness is being very hostile. Please answer the question. Where is Ishmael?
With his mother.
With his mother?
Yes.
Could I then say, for the jury's benefit, that he no longer lives with you because you cast him away?
Well, I did not cast him away.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Who did?
Well, it was a very delicate situation. And at this present moment, for their safety, I prefer not to say.
It's a very interesting answer, Mr. Abraham. So, let's move on from that. But let me ask you another question. To what extent would you go to protect your children? Would you make sure that somebody doesn't try to hurt them?
I'll never let anybody hurt my kids.
Is that so?
That is so.
Your Honor, I would like to enter into evidence Exhibit KNIFE.
Or any court.
Mr. Abraham,
That doesn't look like my knife.
are you sure? Do you recognize this?
Not with the black handle.
Well, inscripted on this, funny enough, is your name, Abraham, and the back of it says, Sarah's man.
Order, order.
Well, if my name is on it, then yes, it is mine.
Mr. Abraham, have you ever used this knife as a weapon?
Yes.
Could you describe the situation?
Well, I have to protect my family from, as we live in the wilderness, from various predators.
Predators, you say?
Yes.
Right. And you've had to use it, you said?
Yes.
Good. Have you ever used it against a person? You're under oath, sir. Remember that. Have you ever used your knife against a person?
No.
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 Could you then describe the events leading up to the attempted murder of your son, Isaac? And you're laughing. This is not a joke, Mr. Abraham. This is serious business.
Yes. As I know, you were not present when Yahweh spoke to me himself.
Oh. Go on.
All right. Now, he has promised me a son. And up to this point, he has provided a lot for my family and I in terms of cattle and servants and what have you. So if it is he asked me to take a leap of faith. And
a leap of what? A leap of what?
A leap of faith. And
you mean the girl who works in the tech team?
No.
No, okay, all right.
And use said instrument there, then I have no doubt that it would be for his honor.
So are you admitting that you may have used this knife in relation to that incident with Isaac?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the knife was an instrument to be used.
I would like the jury to note that Abraham has admitted to using a knife in the incident concerning his son's attempted murder. Did your wife Sarah know about this?
No.
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 That's interesting. She didn't know. The woman who birthed that boy didn't know that you were about to kill him because Yahweh said so.
Your Honor.
So you took him to be killed, but in the end he was not killed.
No, he was not.
What happened?
I had the instrument in hand, and a voice cried out from heaven, the voice of an angel, telling me not to harm the lad.
And you listened to that voice?
Yes.
So a voice told you to kill him, and a voice told you not to kill him.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
But let me ask you something. If that angel did not speak to you, would you have killed your son? Answer the question, man. Answer the question.
Mr. Prosecutor, please behave in my court.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase my question. Would you have killed him if you were not stopped?
I was asked by Yahweh, and yes, I will have.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard it for yourself. This man, this father of many nations, has confessed to intending to harm his son after he abandoned his first for delicate reasons, as he says. By the way, that was my last question. I'm making my closing argument here, if you allow me, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you must find this father, or excuse for one, whatever you want to call it. You must find him guilty of attempted murder, of child endangerment, of abuse. Please, do the right thing and find him guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. The jury, You have 1 minute to come to your verdict. Mr. Abraham, please stay seated.
Well, look at that. Abraham, the father of many nations, attempted murder against his son? That is an interesting thing. Well, I wonder what his verdict will be. Guilty or innocent? We will find out from the jury after this short video.
The Caribbean flamingo.
Flamingos have a unique way of feeding their young. Unlike most animals that depend on the mother to provide for the young, both parents split this responsibility equally. They do this by producing a nutrient-rich red milk in a pouch near their throat. This milk has proteins and fats needed to sustain the growth of the young flamingos. This milk is actually what gives the babies their coloring as they grow. On the other hand, while the baby's color gets brighter, the parent's coat loses color and gets pale and washed out.
What a sacrifice.
Mr. Foreman, I take it that your verdict is ready. Can the court please hear it?
Your Honor, a decision was hard. This decision was hard. My members had to argue a bit. But we have come to the conclusion that Abraham was just following God's word. Therefore, he is not guilty.
Mr. Abraham, please have a seat. Are there any closing remarks?
Yes, Your Honor. If I could find them. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury and of this court, our dedication to God, it should take preference over our dedication to anything else, including family.
Is one.
All right? Every day, our faith and our trust in God is being called into question. But as one of my descendants has stated in Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, that we should trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Now, I was 75 years when I received this promise, that I would become the father of many nations and I would have a son. 10 years had passed. I was 85 years old and still no son. One can imagine how frustrating that could have been for anybody, having to wait so long for a promise and being past the age of conception. I decided to take matters into my own hands and have a child with someone that God did not intend me to have a child with. 5 years had passed and I was 90 years old when the Lord himself spoke to me again and renewed that covenant, renewed that promise that I would have a child. And ladies and gentlemen, it took 10 more years. I was 100 years old when that miracle called Isaac came. All right? So, in closing, if parents and children develop a growing relationship, not just love, but trust builds betwixt them. If we trust God and each other, we can boldly face difficulties in life and emerge victorious. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abraham. I'm not finished.
Sorry.
Thank you. After hearing the verdict from the jury, you have been found not guilty. You are dismissed. Can our next defendant, Mr. David, please come to the stand? Please have a seat. Mr. David, can you raise your right hand and swear to the court that there will be no lies?
No lies today, Your Honor. No lies.
All right. Mr. Prosecutor, do your thing.
Your Honor, I would like to bring an item of hostility with this witness. I'm seeing some big stones on the table, and I've read his file. He once used 5 stones against a guy much bigger than me. This doesn't look pretty at all. I only see 4 stones, so 1 was used. Okay. Mr. David, my record says here that you are a king, is that so?
Yes, you're correct. I'm king of Judah and Israel.
Right. And you're a father of how many children?
Too many to mention, too few to identify.
But interestingly enough, how many girls do you have?
I have many sons and many daughters.
Okay. What about a daughter named Tamar?
Ah, Tamar. Yes, that lovely daughter of mine. She resides at the temple.
Lovely. Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to admit into evidence this vial of tears labeled Tamar's tears.
Tamar's tears?
King David, do you recognize that?
I don't. Are you sure that's not crocodile tears in that bottle, sir?
These have been tested by the lab at forensics.
Okay.
And we have confirmed that these tears belong to your daughter Tamar. Why would we have so many tears belonging to your daughter? King David.
Well, in all families, you know, there are situations. And I was very, very furious when I learned of an incident with one of my sons, Amnon.
Could you describe the incident for the jury?
The records will show, if you go back to the evidence as it was recorded in 2 Samuel and look down to chapter 13, you'll see the account there that that boy Amnon, my son, actually loved his half-sister, because you know I had many wives.
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure if we heard that properly. You have a son who was in love with his sister.
Yes. Yes. It's quite unfortunate. And,
isn't there a word for that?
Well, incest is the correct word.
Yes.
But you see, I'm a king. I have to manage these nations. And I cannot, see everything that is happening in the house. But this is unfortunate, and it wasn't in my house. It was in Amnon's house, and Amnon tricked my daughter, his sister, into coming to his house because he loved us so much. And he had a close friend of his, Jonadab. And Jonadab gave him some ideas to be sick and to call Tamar to prepare food for him so he can get close to her. And when I went to visit him, because I thought he was really ill, and when he told me he wanted to see his sister and for her to prepare a meal for him, I didn't see any harm in it, because that's his sister, and I know I train these children to love each other. But as they say, you can train the children as much as you want, but you can't force them. You can't see what they are thinking. So Tamar did go innocently and she prepared the meal.
And what happened next?
Well, Amnon had a different type of appetite when she came. And
Can the jury please be quiet?
long story short, he forced his sister and forced himself on her, and she pleaded for mercy, and he had none. And when it was all over, he hated her more than he loved her initially. And he discarded her like piece of used material, and I was furious. The record will show that I was furious. If you look at verse 7 in that very chapter,
Yes.
I was extremely furious at the matter.
Yes, the court does record your feeling about it.
Yes, sir.
But here's my question. What did you do about it?
Well,
Your
well-
daughter has just been raped,
yes.
and you said what you felt.
Yes.
Tell the court, what did you do?
Well, I have a kingdom to run, and I have enemies, I have battles to fight, and so on. So I love my children. I love Amnon, I love Tamar, I love her brother Absalom. I know Absalom took matters in his own hands.
Before you go,
That's,
couldn't you have taken one of these stones and dealt with Amnon?
Well, one of the stones there, you notice, is 4. So I bought, in case I needed to use one today, but
Your Honor, this witness is this
all
this
depends
defendant is very hostile. I hope you have a word with him, Your Honor, because he shows intent. But I want to get to the bottom of this, David, or whatever. Why didn't you do anything when you learned of the incident of Tamar's assault by her brother?
Well, first of all, I was ashamed. And it was a shameful thing that happened in my family. And I didn't want this matter to get out of hand. And then my enemies would have heard about it, and, they would have used it as fodder to get to me. So I
Right.
decided that the best thing to do was to keep it quiet and try to resolve it internally.
And of course, because of your inactions, everything worked out well. I mean, afterwards, your other son Absalom killed Amnon. Is that correct?
Well, truth be told, Absalom did love his sister as well, in the sense of brotherly love, and because of what his half-brother did, Absalom hated Amnon to the core, and he sought to create a plan to get rid of Amnon, and yes, it's through Absalom's actions, Amnon was killed.
So let me ask you, for the jury's benefit, do you think that if you had done something of significance to avenge Tamar's assault, that Absalom would not have done what he did? That's a yes or no question.
Well, do you want the long answer or the short answer?
I said yes or no. Do you think that your inactions caused that major fallout where Absalom killed Amnon, then revolted against your own kingdom? Answer the question, please.
The answer is no.
The answer is?
The answer is no.
Is no. Am I understanding you correctly? You are saying that you do not think your inactions caused that major disaster in your kingdom?
No, I am innocent. I am innocent of these proposed and trumped up charges. I am innocent of this.
Your Honor, I have no more questions for this defendant, but I will start my closing argument here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard it for yourself. This king is only concerned about himself. And when he had the opportunity to defend the good name of his innocent daughter, he did nothing. And as a result, his son, who was Tamar's brother, avenged her rape. He did something that his cowardly father couldn't do.
I am not
Mr. Prosecutor,
Oh, shucks.
Your Honor, Your Honor,
Mr. David,
Your Honor,
Sorry, Your Honor.
this,
He's accusing me of being a
Mr.
coward.
David,
I'm a king. King of Israel. and
Mr.
Judah.
David, I am the only king in this court.
yes, Your Honor. Yes,
Sorry, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to see what I'm seeing. This is a king that got out of control, got too caught up with his kingdom that he couldn't even spare
I'm a warrior.
a thought for his daughter, who was ambushed, who was tricked innocently, and was assaulted by her own brother. This man is guilty of allowing all that to happen and not dealing with the perpetrator. You must find him guilty of poor parenting.
Trumped up charges.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. The jury, you can now think of your verdict. You have 1 minute.
Okay, let's recap. King David of Judah and Israel's son, Amnon, was in love with his sister, Tamar, and then raped her. Then Absalom killed Amnon for raping his sister. Well, if you ask me, I think David was guilty. But we will find that out after this short video. And I would like to thank our beloved judge for showing King David his place, because the judge is the only king in this court. Now, to the video.
The African elephant.
For the African elephant, the saying is true that it takes a village to raise a young one. These elephants roam in herds, and while the young ones are coming up, they are kept in the middle, surrounded and protected by the rest of the herd from predators. It is not uncommon for a young calf to be taken from the herd by an attacker, but these elephants have been known to track down the culprits as a herd and claim back their own.
Bodyguards, please take note.
Mr. Foreman, do you have your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can the jury please have some behavior? Mr. Foreman,
Our verdict is that King David, as he calls himself, is indeed guilty.
What?
Mr. David, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I have an opportunity to think things over. And in looking back at the whole scenario, I realized that favoritism should never be allowed and shown by parents. I realized that children must feel that they are always to be treated justly. And in all fairness, I didn't handle that situation with my daughter the best way I could. You see, the home is a safe place, or should be a safe place. And as parents, we are keepers and we are answerable to God. See, as stewards of the household, parents, we must, by our own actions and our words, reassure our children that they are loved and they are also protected. I, King David, did not do that. And as a result, now I lost 2 of my sons physically. And my daughter, she is lost mentally. Learn to do good. Seek justice. Correct oppression. Bring justice to the fatherless and plead the widow's cause. This is my plea to all parents out there. Thank you, Mr. Judge.
Thank you, Mr. David. I'm happy to hear that you have took responsibility for your actions, but unfortunately, You are still tried as guilty. Dismissed.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to our last defendant, Ms. Jochebed. Please come to the stand. Please have a seat. Now, Ms. Jochebed, something about you seems very familiar. I don't take it that you are a liar, are you?
No, I'm not.
Thank you. Mr. Prosecutor?
Uh-huh. Could you state your name one more time for the court, please?
Jochebed.
Jochebed.
Yes,
It's
sir.
not Yoshebed or Joshebed or Jumanji. It's not that.
No.
Okay. Jochebed. Ms. Jochebed, could you state for the court where you live?
Goshen.
Goshen. Right. Would you say that Goshen is near to any particular river?
Yes, it is.
And what river is that?
The River Nile.
The River Nile. Goshen is close to the River Nile. Your Honor, I would like to admit into evidence a ferocious creature that is found in the River Nile. Ms. Jochebed, do you recognize that?
Well, it looks like a crocodile. Maybe an alligator, but it's not mine, though.
No, it's obviously not yours.
But we're not
But-
familiar either.
Have you ever seen one of these in the Nile River?
Maybe.
Yes?
Maybe.
Order in the court. Order in the court.
I'm not sure what the joke is, Your Honor, but this is a serious matter. Ms. Jochebed, are you aware that your 3-month-old son was found in a basket in that same crocodile-infested river?
Yes.
Yes, you do know.
Yes.
How were you involved in that situation, Ms. Jochebed? Please tell the court.
I placed him there in a basket.
You placed him there
Yes, I did.
in a basket.
That I wove myself, so that water would not seep in while he is sailing down the River Nile.
Sailing down the River Nile. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this obviously is a mad woman.
Mr. Prosecutor?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll take that back. I'll take that back. So, why did you do this? Let's hear your explanation. Why did you place him in a basket that you wove yourself and placed him in the river to go down the river? Why did you do that?
I'm sure the record showed that the Pharaoh had a decree to kill all boys. I'm not going to let him kill my 3-month-old son. I had to save his life.
Do you know how he was planning to kill these boys?
Throw him in the River Nile.
So, let's get this straight. Let's get this straight. Miss Jochebed, you saved your son from being thrown in the River Nile to crocodiles by throwing him in the River Nile with crocodiles in a basket.
It was a secure basket. And the Pharaoh's people came down that river. His sister, her maids, they all bathed right at the mouth of that. I'm sure he's going to be safe there. Plus, his sister went to make sure nothing didn't happen or he didn't cant out. He was safe. She went all the way until somebody saw him.
What inspired you to do this, Miss Jochebed?
Like I said, the Pharaoh decree. You weren't listening?
So Pharaoh said he would kill your son, and you actually did something that could kill your son.
I didn't see that I was killing my son. I placed him in a basket. It was woven tightly. It was neat. He was secure. And he had his sister looking at it.
I'm trying to understand. This was based on your husband's advice. Who would have inspired you?
As a mother, You want to save your child at any risk. You take anything, you do anything. I trust God, and I know when I talk to my God, He is going to advise me the best way forward.
So if God told you to jump off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff?
He would tell
Mr.
me
Prosecutor,
I will.
please ask relevant questions.
I have one more question, Your Honor. And please understand my question, Ms. Jochebed. Considering all you've said, throwing your son to face some crocodiles like this, one question I have for you. Does your family have a history of mental illness?
Mr. Prosecutor, this is your last warning.
I withdraw that question, Your Honor. My closing argument is this to the jury. This woman, obviously, she threw her child in a river to save him from being thrown in a river. That makes no sense. She said God told her to do it. What kind of God is that? Okay, he went on to be this great leader, but still, this is madness. You must find her guilty
Mr.
of
Prosecutor,
child
you
abandonment.
clearly don't know the God that I serve. Maybe you should come to a Sabbath service and get to know him.
Your Honor, this is violating law. She's violating the Constitution. This defendant is too hostile for me. Jury, please find her guilty. She is what we call a worthless mother.
Mr. Prosecutor,
Sorry, Your Honor, sorry. I rest my case.
the jury, you can now get your verdict. You have 1 minute.
Well, we just heard the case of Miss Jochebed, the only woman in this court. And Miss Jochebed, thank you for putting the prosecutor in his place. We all know that he needed that. Well, let's recap. Miss Jochebed, the mother of a baby boy, she wanted to save him, as in the prosecutor's words. She wanted to save him from being thrown in a river by throwing him in a river. But we all know, well, we should know, that it was God leading her actions. I honestly think that she was innocent. But we will find that out after this video.
The Adelaide penguin.
These penguins really show us how parents should work together. Both parents share the responsibility of providing for the young. First, the daddy penguin travels over 3,000 miles in freezing temperatures to prepare the nest. Then, after the mommy penguin lays the eggs, both father and mother take turns keeping the eggs warm. If an egg is exposed to the cold for more than 5 minutes, it will not hatch. When the eggs do hatch, the parents also take turns getting fish for the young ones while the other stays to protect them.
Now that's how teamwork makes the dream work.
Mr. Foreman, do you have your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. It is easily assimilated that this woman loves her God and trusts him. Therefore, it is plain to see that.
Your Honor, wait, all this long talk.
Mr. Prosecutor, I am tired of your interruptions. Get out of my court. Mr. Foreman, you can please continue.
Yes, Your Honor. She is innocent.
Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Ms. Jacob, do you have any closing remarks?
I actually do. God is our Father, and He loves us, all of us. God also knows the future. Anything He asks us to do is in our best interest, because He wants us to experience the fullness of joy. Sometimes it's an extraordinary challenge. To overcome that unusually requires an extraordinary solution. But we don't have to do the hard part. God does it. We just need to believe. Believe that no matter where he leads, we will follow. Where there's leading parent, decisions made for children may seem strange and even tough, but it is in your best interest. In the long run, you will see how God worked everything out. In a way, parents see the future because we have walked a similar path to do, and we may know where it ends. When it seems that they are getting in your way, it is only because we don't. We want you to experience less pain. They did this in the fullness of joy. And as a parent, I will place my son in the basket down the river Nile again, if it is safest life, because I serve a mighty God. What a mighty God.
Miss Jochebed. Miss Jochebed. Please sit. The jury has found you innocent. You are now dismissed. All right, I invite everyone to stand. Court is now adjourned.